At first blush, this story out of Harlem about a black principal trying to get her black students to put aside ebonics and speak in proper English, it sounds like a segment of that famous movie musical, My Fair Lady.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
The rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain.
Didn't I say that?
No, Eliza, you didn't say that. You didn't even say that. Now, every night before you get into bed, where you used to say your prayers, I want you to say, the rain in Spain stays mainly in the plain 50 times. You get much further with the Lord if you learn not to offend his ears.
At second blush, there's a lot more to this story
This is going to be ghastly.
than what we see here.
The message was clear. Students have to learn and speak proper English, but controversy tonight over the way one charter school official in Harlem delivered that message. She talked about trying to avoid speaking in the black vernacular, and for that she is coming under criticism. Here's Eyewitness News reporter Stefan Kemp with his exclusive story.
You're trying to say that I'm uneducated. You think that you have to tell me how to speak, and I find it insulting.
12th grader Rihanna West upset to say the least, but you'd be surprised to hear what ticked her off. This letter sent by the superintendent of her school, considering the charter school has a rather noble motto: work hard, go to college, change the world. It says it right there on the letterhead of Democracy Prep Harlem High School. But it's not the message that's touched the nerve with the senior class here, rather how it was delivered.
You bringing kids down and they trying to raise themselves up. They trying to go above societal standards. Don't try to place them back into those boxes.
Speaking exclusively with Eyewitness News, they say it was the tone that was disrespectful. The letter sent on Tuesday, titled Rationale for Speaking Standard English at Democracy Prep, says we have to compete with others, and there are so many damaging stereotypes out there about black and brown people, not as intelligent as whites or as Asians. These stereotypes are wrong, ridiculous, and unfounded.
You didn't really have to bring a whole different race and compare us to that race, because you basically saying we inferior to that race.
The letter goes on to explain the importance of, quote, code switching, and the superintendent explains how she too embraces black vernacular.
She's trying to associate slang with the black community, when slang is something that's a part of every community. Like, it shouldn't be distinguished amongst any race or gender. It is important for us to know how to articulate ourselves so that we can compete. I'm not stupid, we're not blind. Like, we see what's happening with racial tensions in America.
That's the part of the message students agree with. Well-intentioned as it may have been, students say this was not the way to get the message across.
You know, we get a little bit of that around here. Whenever I say the word chocolate cité or some of the other expressions we use around here, I get lots of email from people saying, Colin, I can't show these videos to my liberal friends because they freak out when they hear the word chocolate cité.
Every time you pronounce the letter H correctly, the flame will...
And so, and in our case, I don't really worry too much about it, because for people who worry about me saying Chocolate City, everybody remembers where that came from. It came from the black mayor of New Orleans describing New Orleans. I don't really worry about that much, because for some people, it's always something. If it wasn't me saying chocolate cité, it would be something like the way I raised my eyebrows, or the way I paused, or the way I didn't pause. It's always something. But that's not what's happening in this story. But we're really missing a lot if we don't read the actual letter that was sent out. Let's ignore for a minute that apparently the paragraph spacer is not working on this little memo. Anyway, why don't we read this letter, because there's a lot going on here. This is from the principal. And at Democracy Prep Charter High, the woman we just met, the rationale for speaking standard English at Democracy Prep. It is very important that we nurture scholars who are competitive in every sense of the word and have access to all aspects of the American dream. While I don't have rose-colored glasses on and know that there are some very real obstacles in the way of many people of color in terms of accessing the American dream, parentheses, mass incarceration, the overrepresentation of black and brown people in our criminal justice system, racist practices in the housing market, de facto segregation, poverty, racism in the job market, etc., etc., etc. On parentheses. I believe that every single citizen has the right to pursue and achieve the American dream. However, we have to compete with others, and there are so many damaging stereotypes out there about black and brown people. A really horrible ramification of slavery in this country. And unfortunately, there is a pervasive stereotype that black and brown people are not as intelligent as whites or as Asians. These stereotypes are wrong, ridiculous, and unfounded, but they exist nonetheless. Therefore, to ensure that you all can compete with any student in this country when it comes to applying to college, attending college, or entering the workforce after college, we have to ensure that you are practicing standard professional English at school so that people do not prejudge you based on how you speak or assume you know less than you do because you speak in some kind of black vernacular. I, by the way, love the black vernacular, says the principal. I have family from the South, family from Queens and Brooklyn, and family from Jamaica. I love the speech patterns of all of these folks. I talk to them using slang or vernacular every time I see them. Most recently, 2 weeks ago. But I believe strongly that students have to practice standard professional English at school so that they are able to compete fully and articulate themselves in as clear and as forceful a way as is necessary to ensure their success in this country. Code switching, then, becomes a very necessary skill. Signed, Ms. Natasha Trivers, Superintendent, the Democracy Prep, etc., etc., etc. Whatever fantasies you might have about black people getting into a good school, a good high school, with good teachers, learning good subjects that'll prepare them for college and for life, pretty much shattered by some parts of this letter.
Go on.
When you read the letter, you realize that this is just another school, another race-conscious school, where the most important thing kids learn day in, day out is institutional racism, racial hostility, black and white hostility. And boy, that's going to hold them back way more than any amount of Ebonics ever will. And I'm thinking of this one section here, mass incarceration. The overrepresentation of black and brown people in our criminal justice, racist, da-da-da-da. You remember that part? I mean, when you have a list like that, all I want to hear in the very last clause is somebody saying, for no reason whatsoever. I want people to say, the mass incarceration, yeah, a lot of black people in prison for no reason whatsoever. Overrepresentation for no reason whatsoever. But no, they're not teaching that. They're teaching that black people get arrested and sent to jail and prison more often because of over-policing. Because white people do it too, but somehow cops ignore it. Because white people do it too, but somehow cops ignore it. White people and black people commit the same amount of crimes, except we just pick on black people for some mysterious reason. Well, it's not mysterious, it's all about white racism. That's what these kids learn. It doesn't really matter. You can have them speaking right along with Liza Doolittle at the end, where she finally figures it out and says, the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain.
Good cake, this. I wonder where Mrs. Pierce gets it.
If they come out speaking the Queen's English, but all they're saying is that black people are relentless victims of relentless white racism all the time, everywhere, that explains everything. Well, what kind of chance are they going to have except to find a do-nothing job where they're in charge of the affirmative action and they're the ones going around the workplace or the classroom. They're the ones going around making sure everybody doesn't violate these little rules of communication that they have invented. Like that young lady, the 12th grader we heard there. She knows the rules already. Anything she doesn't like is racist. Anything that challenges her is racist. anything that asks her to step outside of her little experience is racist. Anything she has to do to comply with the big wide world and learn, it's what you give, not what you take, that determines your success on this planet, is racist. That's the atmosphere at Democratic Prep Charter High. We got a whole school full of Liza Doolittles teaching Professor Higgins how to talk and not the other way around, because in that school, their slogan is work hard, go to college, change the world, and do not make the black kids angry.
Alle gloria militar, cherubin la vittoria, alle gloria militar, alle gloria militar, alle gloria